Alrighty, so I've got, as you can see, a very old wooden case sitting on my bed, and what's inside it is quite special, I think. I've wanted a typewriter like this for ages now, and I just so happened to find this one for $15 on Facebook Marketplace. So I'll open it up and show you what we've got inside. So this is my Smith Corona Sterling. I believe this is from about 1949 or 1950. So this is obviously from the 5 series of Smith Coronas. This is like the mid-range. It's slightly nicer than the Clipper. With this older version, and in particular, the only real difference between this and the Clipper is that this one has a tabulator, which to me is really important because when I'm writing, I often do little indentations at the start of paragraphs. But yeah, so I got this machine for $15 on Facebook Marketplace in very rough shape. So it's been quite the process to get this back working, but I'm glad to say it's now a fully functioning typewriter once again. So I'll chuck this on my desk and I'll go through some of its specs and then we'll do a bit of a type test. Alrighty, so now that we've got this on the desk, I'll go through, all the typewriter's features and how I actually got this. So as I do more times a day than I'd like to admit, I was on Facebook Marketplace and I happened to see this listed locally. Can't remember what the listing said exactly. I think it was just something like Smith Corona typewriter, $15. And yeah, I jumped straight on, messaged the guy, and had it within probably about 2 hours. So this machine, it was only $15, which if it was in this condition would be too good to be true. But if you saw the listing photos, it was a complete mess. It had this stuff growing all over the keyboard, the keys are all white. The body was a mess. Basically, all the keys were jammed up like that. When I got it, it seemed that the seller had made some attempt to put the keys back down, but a lot of them were still sitting up like this, like out of their thing, and that was due to bent linkages and all sorts of things. The ribbon was spooled on the wrong way, so this spool had it coming out that way. It went through, and the vibrator was stuck up. But then it came through and was spooled onto the next one the other way, which I'm not quite sure how someone got that quite that wrong, but there you go. It almost seemed to me with a few little things, it was like someone had tried to take this apart and do it up in the past and given up on it, because there's a few things that made it look like people had tried to do work on it and failed miserably. So I was very happy that I had it and I could take my time fixing it up. But yeah, so over the next few days, I got it pretty much to this condition. I've kept adjusting bits and pieces, and I'd like to say it's perfect, but it is definitely not. It's still got issues and niggles, which I'll figure out in time, but it's more than good enough to do a little demo of. I believe this machine is 1949 due to a few things. One of the main things I've noticed about this, it doesn't have the end of page gauge, it's just plain metal there. And the other thing is this does not have the quick release platen. This one you have to take the knob off, undo a few things. So inside this machine you've got obviously your spools, got your touch selector, which doesn't seem to do much on mine. I actually have to change the touch manually. That's about all we've really got in here. If we chuck the hood back down, you might be able to hear this typewriter is very echoey. It's like a reverb chamber. I'll try record it. Let's listen to this when I put the lid down. So yeah, it's really echoey. The logo, I don't know if these were originally green or this brassy color, but the one I had, it was had like a green tinge, but it looked kind of, I couldn't tell if it was oxidization or paint. And if it was paint, it looked bloody ugly. It looked like murky algae green. It was just really ugly. So I basically just got some steel wool and polished that all off and polished this up to a bit of a shinier finish, and I love the way it looks. I cleaned all the keys. I reattached a bunch of linkages, which I'll show you in a sec. Then on the left hand side, you got your ribbon reverse, backspace. I don't like it as much on this side, but I do like that it makes the keyboard symmetrical. So yeah, and then over here you've got your color selector. So it is bichrome as well as stencil. So you got your black, stencil, and red. Then you got your tabulator, which I'll talk a bit more about in a sec. Then you got your margin release. And then if we have a look at the carriage, you've got your left-hand side carriage knob. As you see, it's got this little pin in here. And so when that pin is pushed in, the lines ratchet. And I don't know how else to say this. I love the way the line feels, like the ratcheting feels on this. It feels really smooth and I don't know, it just feels quality, it feels solid. It's really nice. And then if you pull this pin out, it rolls free. So you can get into all your little areas on forms and whatnot. Then you've got a carriage release. Like that, you push that in. Really, really comfy because you can grab the knob, push that in, unlike some others that are a bit funny. Then you've got your line spacing selector, so you can do 1 line spacing, 2 or 3, which is all good. You got your return lever. One thing which you could say is a design flaw is how low this arm sits. Like, mine is actually too low. It should be higher. But when I got it, I think it had been banged in the case or something had fallen on it, so it was actually dragging, and you can see this big long scratch, which is a shame because it's the only, one of the only real big blemishes on it. But I bent this back into shape with just a bit of brute force really, and now it clears it just fine. Then in the center of our carriage, we've got a big long ruler down below the platen. We've got our little card guide. Up the top, we've got another, on the paper table, we've got another little ruler. You got your little paper guide, which I like, which I think a lot more portable typewriters should have, some don't. Got your margins, which I just push and slide, and they both work well. Just like that. I didn't need to do much to them. They were working fine. Got your little paper stand, paper rest, which I really like. And you've got your paper bale up here, which doesn't have any numbers or anything on it. Over this side, your other margin. And then you've got your paper bale, so that flips forward. Over the right hand side, you've got your carriage centering device, but I should mention it's not a lock, because I'll show you what you do. You push it in and that releases the carriage, so it's it's like a carriage release. You push that up, then you slide your carriage over and it stops there, and you let go and it stays up, and it obviously won't move that way because that's the wrong way, but then you move your carriage this way and bang. So so it's not a lock, but the case holds it in place. Then over here you've got another carriage release like that, as well as carriage knob, which is all plain. Have a look at the back of this guy. Quite a few nicks and dings from it being set up against a wall, people not being careful when putting it in cases, which is always a shame because that's actually very easy to avoid. And you've got a little decal here, which I really like, LC Smith & Corona Typewriters Incorporated and made in USA, which is pretty cool because that's one other thing I forgot to mention. Getting $15 for this was a really good deal because Smith Coronas are impossible to get, like in Australia. I thought I should also mention that the tabulator settings, there's no key set tabulator. So I actually like the way it makes the keyboard look, but the tabs are set. You flick this back panel back, and you've got a tab rack in here with manual slugs, which you just, like these little pieces. I believe I've got 6 of them. I've got a couple bunched up at the end because I don't really need that many. Just before I do a typing demo, I thought I would show you the underside of this machine. So as you can see, as a drawband, I'm using some bricklayer's line because this machine is drawband when I got it. It was all tangled up in the wrong place, and I was having heaps of troubles because it had been formed for so long. It was all stiff and bent out of shape, and then it eventually broke. So I actually used some bricklayer's line, which I would probably not recommend as a drawband, but it was what I had laying around, so it is what it is, and it's working fine. And it seems to be pretty strong, actually. They're a really good machine to change a drawband on. I actually, if this one breaks, I'm going to do a video showing how to change a drawband on this, because it's not hard, but it's just really interesting. Anyways, the other thing that's interesting is the feet are really nice and soft. They're not dried out and hard. They're a little bit, but really they feel like they're really they're actually like not sticky, but they're nice and grippy. The bell could be better on this machine, and all that. But honestly, I spent so much time getting this machine just working that I didn't even get all of the little bits of dirt and that out. So basically under here, if I can just get that over there, under here, all these linkages were like, not all, but quite a few of them were detached. The Smith Corona have this funny little thing where it's very easy to take the actual linkages apart. They're not held in by anything but just like this little thing between. It's really hard to explain, but what I'm trying to say is if these get bent, they just fall out, and if they're here, they're not too hard to get back in. But all the ones that were falling out on mine, actually there were two on the front here, and these were completely bent, which is why they're a little bit uneven. But they kept coming out way down back in there. There's like no easy way to reach it. I was having to go up through there and all that, and they are a pain in the ass. Like, it's not much fun. So one of these was hanging off, I think it was that one, and they were bent. So keys were sitting up and down. The escapement was fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I'll give this a quick little type test, and that'll do it for tonight. So I'll chuck a bit of paper in, and I'll give it a typing test. And as you can see, I've been doing a fair bit of writing. And yeah, so as you can see, the margins are a little bit funny, but yeah. Alright, I'll chuck some paper in and I'll show you how it works. So typing with this machine is as simple as could be, really. So you just stick your paper in there. This may not be easy to do with one hand. Oh, there we go. And you just roll it straight through. Pick up the paper bale, like so, and your paper release, like that. And get this over onto the paper guide. Let me see what the margins are. That'll be right. And then we tighten them down, roll it back, and then I'll give her a quick little type. Alright, so as I mentioned, this machine is not perfect by any means, and it's very clangy. It's very, like, it reverberates. But, what can I say? It works, and the way it was when I first got it, it looked like it'd never work. So, yeah, I'll give her a quick test and show you how she works. Alright, so as you can see, the print's not perfect, and I've got a bit of an issue with this right-hand margin. You've really got to jolt it into place, or else it doesn't always... See that? Kind of... See that? It just kinks like one space. You've got to give it a good... and jolt into place. So you really got to kind of bang that return lever home, or else you get this one character little blip. But it's really not that big a deal. You can see it on here, there, blah blah blah. You can read me typing about nothing, just trying to get this thing all loosened up. And also I've got a bichrome ribbon in, so I'll show you what works on red too. So that's pretty fine in there. That's got a bit of black on it. That's just from the type bar. But yeah. So yeah, it all works pretty well. The alignment isn't perfect. It's hard to do with one hand. It looks pretty good there, but it's not as much the shift alignment. It's more some of the characters a little bit. That's a typo. But yeah, some of the characters are a little bit all over the place, but overall I'm very happy with it. But yeah, that's my Smith Corona Sterling as it sits right now. There's a bit more work to do on it, but it's good enough to do pretty long pages of typing, which I think is a win. So yeah.